Thanks, everybody. I have a great job today. My job is to introduce you to a terrific guy, Vince Giarrusso. He, for the last almost 70 years, has been all in heart and soul for Cornell and Cornell football. The first time I met him was in 1984. It was the Friday Jimmy's Harborside lunch before the Harvard game, very appropriate. And we were meeting some alumni, and he introduced himself, and I said, that's a familiar name. You know, I, thinking to myself, I said, I know this very pretty girl. I met her in psych class. And I think, last week I walked her home from a party, and I think I may have kissed her goodnight. What a coincidence. Giarrusso isn't that common of a name. Well, it was no coincidence. Kara was Vince's lovely daughter, and he has been my father-in-law for the last 27 years. The Giarrussos always travel in packs, so there's some family here, very proud family that I just want to recognize. His daughter Gail, son-in-law Robert, his daughter Gina, and granddaughter Lindsay, Kara, my better half, Cornell class of '87, and his son Paul, who is a class of '90, and of course his wife Jan. Jan was a United Airlines flight attendant who met this handsome Italian kid on a blind date, and 6 weeks later they were engaged. Wow. That marriage has lasted 60 years, and Jan says it's 50 of the happiest years of his life. Vinny grew up he's a son of Revere, Massachusetts. He matriculated here as an engineering major. That did not last long. He shifted over to arts and science and was an economics major. He's a brother of Delta Upsilon, Quill and Dagger, a variety of other distinguished societies. He was also a member of the football and baseball teams. He was here in a bygone era. He was here in an era when not only does Cornell play the traditional rivals today, the new Ivies. This was before the Ivy League was even formed. They played national teams, Michigan, Navy, Syracuse, and they beat national teams like Michigan, Navy, and Syracuse. He played against the Heisman Trophy winner, Dick Hasmeyer from Princeton. And I asked, what was it like playing against the Heisman Trophy winner? He says, it was great. I tackled him every time I caught him. But mostly I chased him into the end zone. He said, we made him an All-American. He played in an era without face masks, but if you see, he's got a beautiful smile. One tooth was lost here in Ithaca. A different era. His nickname was Vinny the Guinea. I don't know if that would fly today. He actually was coached by Conti, and over the years, far before this award was even a possibility, he spoke with great reverence and great respect of Coach Conti for his contributions to Cornell, as well as what he did as a man. Vin was here for the 1949 unofficial Ivy championship team that was undefeated. He also led the 1952 baseball team to an Eastern Collegiate Intercollegiate Championship. His teams won 67 games while he was here, losing just 36. That's a 65% winning percentage, which I think holds up for any era in Cornell history. But I think his greatest contribution to Cornell and Cornell football is what happened after he graduated. Jan and Vin settled in Swampscott, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston, started to raise a family, but he stayed in close contact with Cornell football, establishing relationships with every assistant coach that came along to recruit New England, especially one scrappy young linebackers coach named Pete Noyes. He would get on the phone with Pete and say, we've got a prospect here, a prospect there. Back in the day, he hosted what he called junkets, which flew boys from the Boston area out to Ithaca and back and helped to recruit. He lived every Saturday with the knowledge that Cornell was going to win this Saturday. They didn't always win this Saturday, but that he knew that that was what it was going to be. Now, while living in the Boston area, Vinny was an evangelist for Cornell. He would preach to anyone who would listen and many who would not listen about the value of a Cornell education, the Cornell experience, as opposed to those local safety schools like Brown and Dartmouth and Harvard. He is a consummate entrepreneur. Over the years, he's had many different businesses. He had a grocery store where he learned it's not a good idea to have your mother and your wife working at the same time at the same shift. He was one of the early franchisees in Dairy Queen, where he learned if you ask everybody, would you like nuts and chocolate on that, you could double your profits. He was a real estate developer. He currently owns and runs a transportation business with his daughter Gina. Gina has led him into the tech world. He now uses a smartphone, but really it's just a phone. And if your favorite team, professional team, won a Super Bowl or an NBA championship or a World Series in the 60s or 70s, you probably know Vin's business, Fleetwood Recording. He was an innovator in sports entertainment, taking the radio highlights of a championship team season and compiling them into a commemorative long-playing record. People from Cincinnati and Boston and Detroit grew up listening to over and over the Havlicek Stole the Ball record, the Big Red Machine in Cincinnati. And I'm a native Detroiter. I grew up listening to and memorizing 1968, the year of the Tiger. Long before I ever met Kara, I had a real connection to Fleetwood Recordings. He formed lifelong relationships with some of sports greats. I was at their house one day, and Kara answered the phone and said, "No, my dad's not here. Can I take a message?" She says, "Okay, Mr. Gowdy." And she wrote it down. I said, "You didn't know Kurt Gowdy's voice? That was Kurt Gowdy." Johnny Most, Red Auerbach used to play tennis at their house. Marty Glickman, a close personal friend, the fastest guy on the block from Syracuse and the Olympics, and Ernie Harwell, the voice of the Tigers. Much of Vince's success can be tied to what he learned in the classrooms, the labs, and the playing fields here at Ithaca. A strong work ethic. Nobody outworks Vinny. A passion to have enthusiasm for what you're doing. He always manages to have fun with what he's doing. And a relentless optimism. To be a Cornell football fan for 70 years, you need to be a relentless optimist. And lastly, he has a fierce competitiveness. If you met him today, you'd say he's a mild-mannered, elderly gentleman. No. Get him on a tennis court even today, and he will tear your heart out. Last night, watching the Red Sox game, you've never seen righteous indignation until you see them start to squander a lead. The fire that he has just shows what he probably, you can picture what he was as an athlete on the playing fields in Ithaca here almost 70 years ago. So as I said at the top, he is a great guy. It's rainy. I don't think there's going to be a lot of outdoor activities. We've got a lot of time for Vinny to share some stories. I want to introduce my father-in-law and one of the Lou Conti Lifetime Award winners, Vince Giarrusso.
What can I say? I'm literally overwhelmed. I cannot believe it. First, I'd like to congratulate Terry for winning his award and the other recipients in today's event. I first want to thank my son-in-law Tom for taking all the time